Okay, so what we're going to talk about, I think, is very important because I recognize a good amount of names in here, and a good amount of you play in tournament, whether it is offline or online, and I think this contributes to both. So I want to talk about tournament mentality in and out of game. So a lot of people don't realize, but their environment really shapes how good they play. Like even in casuals, even in online tournaments and offline tournaments, it really shapes the way they play. And whether it's, I left my room clean, or I worked out today, or I've been working out every day, I've been eating good, something like that, right? Like something really out of game that will really just make your mental better. Because if your mental isn't there, then you're already cooked. Like it's already done. Like if you're going to a tournament, like, man, my mind's on, did I make enough money this week? Or did I remember to clean the frying pan before I left? Did I leave my stove on? Like little things like that, right? That'll really affect your mental, and you have to understand how to, one, control that part of you, and two, just really, make sure you're in the right space or the right place mentally before you head out to a tournament. I would never head out to a tournament if I was not confident, like in my character, if I wasn't confident, like in the positioning that I'm in, like just living wise. Like if I was about to get evicted next week and the tournament was this week, I would not go to that tournament and play because I would literally just lose in pools or something like that, right? So that right there is, I think, a very, very important thing to just discuss and really think about as you go off to a tournament, go off to play casuals, something like that. In game, it's a lot. It's a lot more simple, I believe. You just really, are you confident in the character you play? Are you confident in the things that you labbed? Do you know what kind of characters you are good against? What kind of characters you're bad against? Or is it really going to affect you if you're bad against like Bedman? Is it really going to affect you if it's bad against Faust? And if you think it is, then that is already a bad mentality that you're gonna have, and you're going to probably lose to the first Faust you see, no matter how much better than them you are. So it is very important that you feel prepared in game. In game is very important you feel prepared with your character, with the matchup, with like your sequencing, anything like that is just super, super, super important. And that is pretty much it for mental speaking of like in and out of game. I do want to ask because I feel like people would have questions on this. So like I will ask. I know there'll be a Q&A later, but I want to ask now. Does anyone have any questions about tournament mentality? Like what you do to prepare in and out? See a couple people typing. Few people have questions. How do you feel about rituals? Are they important to you? When you say rituals, do you mean like black magic, or do you mean just like what do you mean by rituals? I'm not trying to voodoo curse the person next to me. Sleep is a big factor, yes. I think if my sleep schedule is like destroyed, I think it's like already really bad. Like when I came back from Japan, I think I was playing really bad because I didn't have a good sleep schedule. Because I was waking up at 8 a.m. and going to sleep at 6 a.m. So I would not recommend cramming when it comes to sleep. I always go to sleep, especially when I'm traveling out for a tournament. I always go to sleep at like a reasonable time. Like I'll go to sleep at like 1, 12, depending on how like when I have to wake up. So if I have to wake up at 8, I'll go to sleep at like 12. If I wake up at 10, I'll go to sleep at like maybe 1, 2, something like that, right? Get a quick workout in, something like that. How much do you prep character matchups for everything else versus everything else for a tournament? Um, I think I prep character matchups some of the most because I think if I can't beat the character, it doesn't matter how good I am, like how much better I am than the other person. If I can't beat the character, I just would like explode. Like if I'm dooming about a character, I just don't want to even like think about it. Think about winning a tournament is what I mean. Sorry. How early do you sleep during majors? A lot of people use it to hang with people because they don't see them every year. There's a lot of hanging out, drinking. Do you sleep even when you're hanging with others? Uh, I'll hang with people. Like I try to hang with many people as I can, but I usually like to try to get 6 hours of sleep at least. I like waking up at a decent time to be able to do everything. Like I want to work out at the hotel gym. I want to um, get a good breakfast, wake up and not feel like I'm rushed. How do you go about eating before bracket? When I eat before bracket, it's typically like I'd say an hour to 2 hours before the bracket, so I don't feel sleepy. So uh I'll eat like 2 hours before the bracket, go to the venue like 40 minutes after, play to wake myself up to if I'm ever feeling like drowsy or anything, and then yeah, just basically that. You were with me at Saturday night prepping for ABBA at Frosty's at 3 a.m. Yes, I was. And that's because you needed help. That's because you needed help a little bit more than I needed sleep. And I still got to sleep at a reasonable time. You still got to sleep at a reasonable time. As someone who just got evicted, I find that despite the turbulence, the big changes in my life have motivated me more than anything else. What advice would you give someone who's going through a rough time but still wants to play? I say play, but play for fun. Don't play like, because I would assume like, you want to play to practice, but I think if you're going through a rough time, you shouldn't play too seriously because if you're already like mentally bad or like just in a rough spot mentally, you're just gonna get mad at every little thing and then it's gonna be counterproductive. What steps did you take to go from losing pools when you were just starting to compete to playing on stage? What improved? Or have you gotten out of pools the entire time? Actually, I did get out of pools the entire time. Because my first my first major was for Dragon Ball, and it was like already 3 years into the game, and I was already like considered one of the best players before I traveled out. So I kind of already, I never lost in pools, including Dragon Ball or including Strive. Even when I played Strive, I kind of never lost in pools. But I would say that the way to improve is just to find consistent training partners that'll just beat you up over and over and over again. They'll just continue beating you, and they don't mind. And then you'll realize, like, hey, once I'm able to beat this guy makes it out of pools. So surely, eventually, I'm clearly getting better. So surely, eventually, I'll be able to get on pools. That kind of thing. Like if every week I would continuously fight him to see how much I've improved. And if I'm at a point where I'm either going even with him or beating him, I would assume that I can make it out of pools now. Like that would be the assumption I make. Yeah. Do you try to emulate the playing environment that you play in casually at home? And how or what do you do to do that? I don't, because I think that it is impossible to emulate the feeling of being in your own home and just being in a chair, as opposed to like 80 people just all around you, next to you, and 15 of this guy's friends are just cheering against you because nobody knows like who you are, or like nobody knows who you are. You're not from there, and they're just like, God, I hope my friend wins. Like, you can't emulate. You can't emulate it. It's just impossible. I personally think that. Have you ever found thinking too hard about the person you're sitting down to play, like things that are relevant in game, or losing to someone's net aura, as a way to put it? No. But I had a little bit of an unfair advantage because Sonic Fox used to live in New York, and I would just go to their house like every couple like weeks to play Dragon Ball. So like I'm kind of immune to like getting aura farmed by this person next to me, you know? Like I try not to overthink it, you know. I kind of grew up with the mentality of everybody's a scrub until proven otherwise. Uh, we should get on to next topic. So I'm gonna do the next three questions, and then we're gonna get on to next topic. I'm sorry. These questions are really good, though. These questions are really good. How much of it is delusion, do you think? I know in the back of my head that there's matchups that I'm bad at, and I think that I find it hard to sort of leave that behind. If you think you're bad at a matchup, it is okay to think that. That is why we try to get better. The ideal mindset would be, am I good enough at the matchup to win? Not, am I still bad? Because if you're good enough to still win it in tournament, then it is okay. If you think that, it is okay. If you think you can get better at it, that is also not a problem. How do you set reasonable expectations when entering a bracket with people you can beat? Is it reasonable to get overconfident? I can see this guy. I've learned from a lot of previous losses in tournament that getting overconfident does nothing but cause you to lose. Yeah, lack of better words. I got overconfident against a couple players in Strive and in Dragon Ball. I'd be like 2-0 up, or I just go in thinking like, damn, yeah, this guy's definitely not better than me. I should just smoke him. And then I lose, or it's really close, and I'm like, why was it that close? And it's because I get too lax. And if you get too lax, you're just not going to be thinking about the thing in front of you. Weird question, but my girlfriend is a really strong player in my scene. Is she a suitable practice partner? My girlfriend is Leaf Blade. That's the Soul player. I believe that is the Soul player. I've played them before. They're really good, and they definitely make it out of pools. So I would definitely consider using them as a training partner. Okay. Last questions. Okay. Sorry. What do you think about energy drinks before tournament? I don't use them. I have enough energy as it is. I definitely don't use them. That is, I get really scared that I'm gonna get too jittery, and it'll just, yeah, no, I wouldn't do it. I personally wouldn't do it. I know there are a lot of people that do it. Like I know Daigo drinks Red Bull. Um, I know a couple other players that drink Red Bull and really try to get energy from that. So if it works for you, it works for you. So then how do I manage my mental when looking at entrance? That's why I'm confused. Where should I set my expectation? That is up to you. That is always going to be up to you. How good of a player do you think you are? Because if you think you're a good enough player to get out of pools, then your first expectation should be, I can get out of pools. And then you can build off from that. You're like, oh, I got out of pools pretty nicely. Now my next expectation will be, can I make top 128? And then if you can't, you can't, it's okay, right? You already made your first expectation. Now you build off the first one, get to the second one. Or you make it and you're like, well, now try to make top 64. Do my best there. You don't want to go into the mentality of I can't do it, but you can go in with I'll try to do it. But we'll work one step at a time, That's what I think. But moving on from that, we will now talk about studying competition, because I think a lot of people need to learn how to study people, how to study characters, but studying characters is next. So we'll talk about studying competition right now. When it comes to studying competition, you'll notice that a lot of people come from abroad, whether it's Bushin, Tatuma, Leffen, Andros, Varix, some good player, or somebody that's not as well known. So you typically don't see them very much. Like you'll see who's not too well known. Maybe like Kome, or just unknown Jacko player of in Japan, right? Like Patty next door, exactly, right? Like if I had to fight Patty next door, and I was like, I don't know how this player plays. And the first thing I hear about this player is they play Zato. I am going into YouTube and going to our good friend High Level Replay channels as he robs everybody's content by just uploading videos of random people playing, and he just anyways, if I had to play against Patty next door, I would look up their name. I'd be like, okay, for some reason this person's not showing up. They don't play ranked, okay? Like Patty doesn't play ranked. So how do I find them? Are they just gonna be a question mark? Are they gonna be a question mark with a black silhouette? Or we have our good other friend, StarGG. StarGG actually tells you a lot about a player. Whether they played at their local, what their last placement was, what games they play, something like that, right? So one thing my good friend LK does is he's like, I don't know what this player is like. And I have to study players because my character requires me to study players. I hear it all the time from him every day. And he tells me it, and I'm like, I get it. I do get it. I don't have to do it because I play a broken character. But he has to do it, and other people have to do it because they don't play as broken as a character, right? So if I'm like, Patty played at this local in West Coast, I'm going to reverse search it, see if I can find where Patty played in this local. Like they played at Guild House number 27 in season 3. I'm going to watch that match, be like, okay, this person got top 8 at this local. I'm going to go look at what they do, right? They do 2K2D oppose. Now I know they do 2K2D oppose. So the first thing I'm going to look at is 2K2D that I'm going to dash block on 2K2D because I'm going to be like, we're going to do oppose, right? That's going to be the first thing I think. And that's going to be the first thing I do. Patty's going to look at that. Patty's going to get hit by throw, lose the game, and be like, what the fuck? Why did you do that? And I'm gonna be like, I don't know. Why would I tell you? And I'm gonna have StarGG like in my back pocket with the video still playing, and then they're gonna tell me after my burst, Patty likes to do invite hell. So after my burst, I'm gonna do dash jump, JH, and counter hit you. And they're gonna be like, whoa. Why'd you do that? And I'm going to be like, I don't know. Maybe there's something telling me what you're going to do. And it's very good. Even if it's a long time ago, it's very good to know what kind of habits your opponent likes to do. Because habits are very hard to change. And habits show up the most in tournament because people like to autopilot a lot in tournament because they get nervous. So if Tickle, I play Tickle a lot. Tickle loves to do something like, so Tickle loves to do H dive in neutral. So I look at Tickle when he's playing and I'm like, he's gonna do H dive right here. And I 6P and Tickle's like, man, how did he know? Well, guess I gotta do something else. And then Tickle does S stroke and then I block it. and then I block the S stroke and then he gets punished and then I go into back turn and then he loses the game. And he's like, how did you know? So I studied, I realized what you like to do against, and I realized that you have this habit against every single character you fight against, not just like whatever character I was looking at, right? So even if it comes to a point where somebody isn't playing against your character, the person you're watching isn't playing against your character, their habits still may translate to fighting your character and every other character they play because of the autopilot they like to do. So that is a good idea for studying someone and remembering the fact they do a lot of things in tournament. Because if you guys watched me fight Paluna, in Combo Breaker, what did you guys get out of that set? This is the question for you guys. What did you guys get out of that set? Did you guys get anything important? The first of 3, it was pretty short. Even though it was 5 games, it was still pretty short. But you guys should have noticed something. There's a specific answer that I'm looking for. And if you guys get it, I will give you a gold star. Gold star. I missed Combo Breaker. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Well, Combo Breaker will be here next year, so if you want to, lock into that. You played Jacko? No, I played Geo against Paluna. You're feeling the gold star? It's okay. It's okay if you guys fail the gold star, and it's okay because I will still give you passing grades for attendance. I like attendance. That was my only takeaway. That is a good takeaway. Especially after Twitter said that people can't dress once again. So that's a good takeaway. But basically what I'm trying to say is that if you watch my Paluna set, you'll realize that you do not throw Paluna. You as a player do not throw Paluna because they will up back because they're super nervous and they don't want to block. That's the last thing they want to do, so they will up back. I air through Paluna 2 times in a row, by the way. I air through Paluna 2 times in a row. And they up back the 3rd time, and I foolishly attempted to throw. I foolishly attempted to throw. There is another thing you also could take away from that set, which is Game 5, last round. They're super nervous. They're gonna mash. They're going to mash. I hit Paluna with, no joke, I think 2 5Hs and 1 close flash. And they were all counter hit. They were all counter hit last round. So these are important things that you would need to take away from a player that you're going to play against in tournament. And there are all types of players you're going to play against in tournament. So there are things that we need to look into that. I need to go rewatch see how I rank top 8. I think it is worth a good. I think it's a good watch. I think top 16, no, top 24 is also a good watch. So if you're interested in that, you should also go watch that. But essentially, you'll notice that certain people have a lot of defensive habits, and these defensive habits are pretty easy to exploit if you know they exist already. And other habits are a little harder, especially when it comes to like neutral or like offensive habits, because that's always subject to change. But you still want to check them, even if, right? Like there's still things you need to check them for. But moving on, quick. What time is it? 7:37 over there. 3 minutes. 3 minute question. 3 minutes of questions. We're starting now. If anybody has any questions, hit me. Uh, when you notice a habit in someone's play, how do you go about theorizing to ways to punish it? Is that just labbing? Yes. A lot of times I do try to lab it. Um, and I try to save it for a game deciding scenario. So if I know that my opponent likes to throw on GO5K, I'm going to do 5K 6P for like most of the game. And if it's a game winning scenario where I get a 5K on block, I'm gonna jump in that scenario. And if they do the throw, I win. If they don't do the throw, well, I was wrong and I won't do that again. Are there common universal situations where you're looking for habits? Yes. The most common situation, funny enough, I think we're all guilty of this, is everybody, or not everybody, but a lot of people will mash when they notice you at like, I say 10%. They will immediately start mashing on your strings. Like mashing in places they've never mashed before. They will start mashing really hard. So I always just slam frame traps. When I realize that they try to kill me, like as fast and easy as they can, I just slam frame traps and I bait supers. I beat supers a lot less, but I will slam frame traps or do spacing traps. If you're going to address the next section, feel free to disregard. If you're going into a bracket and you gotta fight a matchup that you don't feel great about, are you focusing on the player? I can learn their habits, or do you take the opportunity to work on a matchup a lot? If I don't have enough time, I will focus on the player. I will be panicking a lot, but I will focus on the player and focus on how easy it is or how hard it is to avoid them from playing the game. Because the matchup could be bad, but if the matchup's bad or I don't know the matchup, I will still at least try to win off my offense. Like, man, I suck at this matchup, but I don't suck at this matchup anymore when I'm in back turn, like that kind of thing. I don't suck at the matchup anymore when I have one bar for Yozansen. Like that's the kind of thing. As a lower level player, what is the best way to understand and digest footage where the dynamics at play may be going over your head? The best thing to do is ask questions. To whoever or the best player you have, or test why it's working. Like use it. Like let's say, why is this guy as Axel letting me jump? Like, why is he letting this Geo player jump? And then the best way to see it is either, ask the person if you can. If you don't have contact with the person, you might have to test it yourself, right? you'll be like, oh, he's doing this because Geo's super jump can get over 6K, or Geo's super jump into they're scared of Geo's jump because super exists, right? So they don't want to anti her blindly, like that kind of thing, right? So you can test it yourself and be like, oh, this, and this. It'll probably take a little longer because, as you said, it is going over your head. But if you don't have anyone to ask and you really want to find an answer to whatever the situation is, you have to like just get in there, trial and error, see what's happening there. You know. Let's see. To add on to this, what habits do you look for? Just mashing and fuzzy jumping. Is there a list of conditions? It depends. I think a big habit that I look for personally is if I'm in back turn and if you block back turn H, what do you do on back turn H, right? So like I know if I play Tatuma right now, I know he mashes something on back turn H. So I know 236S will always hit him and frame trap him, right? Like something like I know Kazam loves to fuzzy jump after close slash. So I'm just gonna trap him low as much as I can. Like that kind of thing. Have you watched the play? Have you ever watched a match where you had a well-built plan specifically against the player, which has fallen apart? They just played out of the character from what you prepared for, and if so, how did you react? Yeah, we should wrap up this section. I agree. I will answer this question real quick, and then we'll continue on. But sometimes, so what should happen is you should just be able to just change the plan, like divert from the plan you made. I failed to do that against Tatuma, which is a person that I took notes on what he did, and he did something that I was not prepared for. Same thing happened to Ditto when he was playing against Tatuma. He was not prepared for what he was going to do, and it kind of all just fell apart there. So, but the idea would be just to realize that he's doing something out of character or doing something you're not prepared for, and just try your best to just create a new game plan on the spot. As that question related to the topic, but hopefully Nitro will have it. Yes, I will have time to answer in the general Q&A. But moving on, let's study characters. Studying characters, this section will be probably shorter than the other ones because it kind of ties into the other two. But when studying a character, there are a lot of ways to do it, and I feel like people are like not too good against it because, for one, it depends on the game you play, but Guilty Gear is fairly complicated when it comes to characters. Like, how do you lab Zato if you don't play Zato? Like, how do you lab Go Lewis if you don't play Go Lewis or own him like I don't? But how do you lab those characters? How would you lab those characters? Well, there's a couple ways. This is rhetorical, yes. There is a couple ways to lab those characters, right? And one is to open up our good friend Dustloop. Dustloop has a lot of things in this game. For all my mathematicians out there, a lot of the things in this game do require you to know a little bit of math. So if his 5K, let's say this guy's 5K is -2, but I can't mash because the hurt box of his 5K is like all the way in Narnia, and I'm just a little old Leo and I can't reach him, right? So I need an answer. My answer would be, how do I get him to hit? How do I get Go Lewis to stop hitting 5K? Do I stop my entire neutral, or do I do something like dash button? Because like I do dash button, he does 5K 2P. It would be 5 plus 2, so 7, versus my dash jab, which would be like I would say 5 plus 1, right? If I get a perfect dash, it would be 5 plus 1. So I would make it there in time with jab. If I did 2K, I couldn't move if I wanted to beat 2P. Like those kind of things, it requires you to know, a little bit of character, a lot of the character, and a lot of math. A good and better way to explain this too is if you are fighting, let's say, what is a good character? Oh, let's say we're fighting Baiken. Let's say we are fighting Baiken. And Baiken does H Kabari at let's say a decent range, like somewhere mid-screen, right? You block her somewhere mid-screen. She does close flat 5, or she does close flat 5 H Kabari. And you think they're going to hit far slash, so you're going to probably press dash 2K. You're going to probably press dash 2K, or you're going to press like your far slash. They don't press 5S. They press 5K. Their 5K stuffs your 5S. That only works for a couple reasons. One, your 5K, your far slash is probably not disjointed, and your 5K, the 5K you got hit with is much faster than your far slash. Baiken 5K is both. Please remind me. It's 7 ? 7 frames. Thank you. And your far slash is probably like 11. And you lost the hitbox, hurtbox thing. Also, you lost the speed. Nago 5K, a lot of the same things. You want to beat Nago 5K at round start, you need something fast enough to beat Nago 5K. Nago 5K is somebody... Real quick, pop quiz. What is Nago's 5K startup? I believe it's also 7. It is not 5. I don't think it's 5. It's 7. Nago's 5K is 7 with his hurt box being on his hip or some shit. Like he fucking has the God 5K, right? So you have your way of beating it, which would be dash 6P, your 5K if you can, or something that I like to do is I like to do dash 5P because it is faster and it gets me in range in time. But the reason I'm saying all this is because when you're studying a character, you have to study how fast they are, how fast their move is, where their hurt box is, how they interact with your normals, how they interact with RPS for your RPS or their RPS, and how good are they at keeping you away. Because if you're fighting characters like Nago, they're going to keep you away in a very lazy way, and you're going to be like, this is very broken. This is very broken, and he's chipping me. This is very broken. But then you realize, oh, if I realize his 5K is 23 total, I can sit, wait for him to whiff on this RPS situation because he did 6H. His 6H -2. He's going to try to take his turn with 5K. I wait, he whiffs, I press 2K, and now I can win the game. Hitbox, hurtbox things are very important along with speed, along with just the situational awareness to know how your normals interact with their normals. Also, the risk you're taking that when you hit a normal against Nago, because he will kill you if you're wrong. but you have to take that risk because that's the only way you're going to fight characters like that. I think for that, for studying characters though, it is going to be very long, very annoying, but you have to do it if you want to win. You have to do it. It is the best way to fight a character, and my best advice for that is you should probably, one, find a training partner, or two, ask somebody that's really good against a character. Because personally, I was dooming about Johnny yesterday, because I fought him yesterday, and then I asked Jonathan, and he was like, "You need to do a lot. You need to do a whole bunch of this stuff." I did that today, and I felt a whole lot better about the matchup. So do not be afraid to ask other people for help especially against characters you don't feel confident against. All students should be studying their opponents' characters for next Thursday. Agreed. You think Tatuma doesn't study people? I can tell you this much: Tatuma definitely studied a lot of Red Ditto, because he was definitely prepared for everything. He was definitely prepared for a lot of Ramethal, a lot of Red Ditto. But that studying characters is very it gets very deep, but it's still like not too complicated once you get into like the thing. Once you get into like the nitty gritty of things, as they would say. But there's not much to say on that one, other than what I already said. But if there's any questions for that, I'll take three. I'll take three questions. I'll take 3 questions. I'm gonna put you guys on a limit. You guys asked a lot of questions. Yes, 3 questions about the topic we just talked about. Thank you both. Deathloop is it's great for certain things, but in the community where resources are so scattered and I can't say that word. I'm too stupid. Especially at higher levels, how do you keep up to date with everything about all the characters, advanced tech, optimals, etc.? I have a notebook in my phone because I'm not that old fashioned, but I have notes in my phone that tell me things, just the basic things that I need to do. Everything else is kind of like, I have to remember. I have to be aware of it. But the simple things that I just need to know, I will have in my notes, and then I'll continuously do them until they're second nature. Do you use the replay takeover when studying matchups? No, I don't have that, sadly, but it seems really good. How do you go about that for yourself personally? So what I would do is I would remember the situation that happened, or go back into a VOD to see the situation that happened, and be like, oh, this is killing me a lot. This is killing me a lot. How do I beat it? And then I would record a bot, and then I would just constantly fight against the bot, choose my answers, see how good they are. And if the best answer is dash jab, then I will be using dash jab. All right, I'm jumping in. Let's see. Related to both topics, how do you juggle labbing a character versus labbing the player? If I'm prepping for negative Ellie, for example, that really knows my habits well and cooks me, and literally every single Zato I reach out to does not know the matchup to the extent, what do I do? I almost do not feel like I'm getting much out of the sets versus even the other high level Zatos. Does that mean the focus should be more on the player, or is there always something to learn from a matchup? Paluno might be a good example for one person that is gapping the rest of the terms of competition. I think if you feel like you're not getting anything from Zato in general, or the other Zato players, you definitely need to study the player, because you should take into account that the player could just know you better than the other Zato players know you. So negative Ellie is your training partner, I would assume. and they know you like the back of their hand. But you're not trying to fight negative Ellie. You're trying to fight Zato. So for negative Ellie specifically, you should be trying to fight Ellie. You should not be trying to fight Zato. Zato is your second opponent. Ellie's your first. Is there such a thing as a low quality replay match that you shouldn't study? I think I won't study matches that are like extremely sloppy. I think if a match is like super sloppy where we're just clearly like slobbering all over our like controllers, I won't study it because I don't think like there's anything to be learned from that. Moving on though, to our next topic. We have a fun one here. Mental preparation for before tournament. So this one, I'm not going to go too deep on because we kind of already talked about this, right? Like, I mentioned that, you need a clean environment. You need to prepare for your opponent, prepare for who you're going to look at. One thing I failed to mention, is I think that you should look at your path. Somebody asked a question about that before. I think you should look at your path and look at who you really think you're going to struggle with. There's also times where even if you don't know the person and this person doesn't have a name to themselves, you should just be like, I'll check who they play at least, right? I check who they play, and you're like, they play Dizzy. Can I get a show of hands on who knows the Dizzy matchup? Everybody that just said yes, you're all better than me at the game, right? I would be like, this person plays Dizzy and shit myself because I don't know the Dizzy matchup and I haven't labbed the character, right? Like me, I haven't labbed the character. I'm shitting myself. This person says, if I look to the next match and the other person that I'm playing after Dizzy plays Anji, I'm going into losers. I'm gonna have a fine time in losers because I hate Anji. But you need to mentally prepare yourself to fight those characters, even if you hate them, even if you don't know them. You need to be able to mentally prepare yourself for those because they all will affect your mental. And if you don't feel confident in tournament, you'll just lose. I mentioned that before. If you don't feel confident, if you don't feel clean, you're just gonna lose. One thing I like to do to mentally or prepare myself for a bracket right before is I do like to hit the gym. I do like to get myself pumped up, get some energy. Also like to eat fish, salmon. If I can help it, I like to eat salmon. Maybe some eggs. I definitely also like to stay hydrated. I think some people had salmon last night who want these hands. that's someone that's prepped. That's someone right there that's prepped. But I also stay hydrated. Gotta keep the water in you. Don't want to be dry in tournament. And I also think you shouldn't go into tournament angry. You shouldn't go into tournament angry, stressed, sad. Well, you can stress a little bit. I think stressing is fine. If you're stressing for tournament, stressing is fine. I have a good friend that goes into tournaments, and I room with him a lot. And he goes, "I'm fucked." And he sees the character he has to fight. He's like, "I'm fucked." And I'm like, "Come on, bro. No, you're not. You're okay." Okay, someone delete this SpongeBob gif. It's really funny and it's making me laugh. So you get the SpongeBob gif out of chat. Oh my god. But but he sees Asuka. He sees Asuka. You could probably guess who I'm talking about. He sees Asuka and he's like, "I'm fucked. I lost. I'm going to losers. I'm out of the tournament." And I'm like, "Come on, man. No, you're not. It's okay." I'm like, "Come on, man. You're fine." And he's like, no, you don't get it. And I'm like, I do get it. You know, you think you're gonna lose, but what if this guy is really bad? He's like, it doesn't matter. And I'm like, it's okay. And then he goes, and then miraculously, against all odds, he wins. And he's like, I don't know how you lost that. Thank you, ghouls. Perfect. Actually. And he's like, I don't know how you lost. He's like, I don't know how you lost. I played Viking and you lost. and you lost to freaking you lost Asuka Viking. How did you lose? And I go, what if he's just worse? And he is. He's like, he is. And he's like, I had to fight Pot. I lost. And I'm like, have you lost to a Pot this year? And he's like, no, but I can lose to this one. And I'm like, what if you didn't? And he's like, okay. And then he wins. And then I'm like, you see, if you're mentally correct, if you're mentally prepare yourself for the fact that this person is not good at the game because he plays Potemkin. I'm sorry to all my Potemkin players in chat. I'm sorry. But you play Potemkin, you're not good at the game, and he knows that, and he's like, I'm better. And he wins. And he's like, okay. Yes, it is keeping a positive attitude in the face of adversity. But it also making sure you're not too relaxed. Because if you're relaxed, then you get overconfident. You start slouching in your chair. You're like, okay, I can win. It doesn't matter. And then you get potbuster 4 times, and then you're out the tournament. And you're like, what the fuck? I lost? You know, that kind of thing. But again, I said I was going to spend too much time on this topic because we kind of trickled into this topic with previous topics. So, yeah. I get so tired locking in all the time, though. I understand. That's why we did take breaks, right? You need to take breaks. So, you're at a tournament. Realistically, if you want to win a tournament, and let's say there's like maybe 1,000 people, you have to win 10 sets, right? You have to win 10 sets. But if you're locking in casuals, you're playing tournament, then you go back to casuals, then you play in tournament, and you're locked into that whole time, yeah, of course you're gonna get tired. Of course. So you gotta preserve that energy. You gotta make sure you use it in the right places, you know? Tournament stamina is definitely a real hurdle, yes. Yeah, a little phone time, a little just walking around, listening to music, talking with friends. Like, at Combo Breaker, once I was done with my tournament set, I went over to 2XKO setup and just went to go, like, talk shit to Inzem or Sonic. Punk wasn't here today. Punk wasn't at Combo Breaker, so I couldn't talk shit to him. But I either, like, go talk it up with one of my friends, you know, just have a chill day. And then when tournament's about to start back up, you know, I go back to locking in. I play a lot of fighting games to a fairly high level, at least local top 5-ish. I also find this to be really mentally taxing at majors. How exactly do you maximize efficiency? Do you think setting up a good autopilot or layer 1 game plan is the answer? Correct. That is the answer, actually. The other answer is you can play as much as you can. And if you just think of it like you're running, right? And you're sprinting the entire run. If you build stamina by continuously sprinting, so if you sprint a 400 meter, right? If you sprint an entire 400 meter and you continuously sprint that 400 meter, then you sprint a 500 meter. And then you keep going, sprint 600, 700, because you keep training, you keep practicing, and you keep sprinting. If you keep locking in, you do a lock in first to 10. Then I do a lock in first to 15. or I do lock in first 10, first to 10. Like 2 first to 10 sets, I lock in for both of those. And then I'm like, okay, I still have more energy left. I'm going to do a lock in first to 5. And I'm going to turn that first to 5 into a first 10. It's basically just like you were doing a sprint. But you just learn how to get more stamina as you progress. Doom scrolling on Twitter between sets is not a good thing, and I know this, but Lord, do I do it anyways? I've definitely doom scrolled my fair amount. I try not to salt tweet. I try not to salt tweet. I try my best not to. I plug in my own music. I don't recommend it, but because game sound is fairly important, especially with some characters. But growing up, I played Call of Duty Zombies without sound, so I've kind of just gotten used to it. But can you give me an example of game sound being useful? People say this, but I never understand what they mean. Best example is Happy Chaos shoots you, and you hear the gunshot. But if he misfires, you will not hear the gunshot, so there's no reason for you to stop moving forward. Another example would be you can hear Leo holding guard point. What the fuck was that? I think I just pressed something on my mic. My bad. That shit scared me. But you can hear Leo holding guard point. Yes, audio time is faster than visual. That is just about human nature. I guess another example is let's see, which one matters? Those are the best examples I can think of. Oh, I guess you can hear Johnny holding Misfiner too, like things like that. You can also hear EX moves in Grand Blue if you play that. JP and S6 have voice lines on what he's doing with Phantom. That's also a great one right there. Yep. You can also use audio for Fukio. You can also use audio for Johnny's teleport dash forward. The rate that I react to tab does goes down like 50% when I listen to music while playing, and it's partly a lock-in thing and partly a audio thing. There is study that shows that music with lyrics will actually lower your reaction time. Funny enough, one of my boys was telling me about that. There's actually but the trade-off is that you do feel more comfortable listening to music that is the music that you typically listen to. That would be like the trade-off. I don't feel it affect me. I don't feel a difference. So I always play music. But I do imagine that a lot of people will understand it. Listen to music, that's language you don't understand anyways. Wumbo brain. Great segue to dealing with nerves. Exactly, actually. Because that is moving on to, I believe, our last topic. So, to start, dealing with nerves comes in many, many shapes and forms. So, one could obviously be listening to music, listening to music being a great way to just relieve stress, just really chill, right? But there's also, other ways to do it. I know a friend of mine likes to chew gum. Another friend of mine like bites his nails. Not the most sanitary way to deal with nerves, but does it anyways. But there's like a bunch of ways to do it. Like recently, because of Japan and because LK kind of like put me onto this, I've been chewing cough drops in tournaments. I chewed cough drops throughout the entirety of Combo Breaker. I wasn't sick. I would just keep the cough drops because they don't dissolve fast. I can just pop one between any set. You know, that's like a sort of thing that I've been doing, testing. Feels pretty good. My cough drops specifically, just because it lasts a while. And there's always like a huge pack of them for like $2. Just take an edible pre-tournament for nerves. You know, it's funny you say that. I have a friend that literally smokes right before tournament, no matter where he is. He lights the fuck up before tournament. And I'm like, I truly respect the type of person you are because you are a psychopath. not the not the most recommended solution because I know a lot of my friends that also hate doing that. But it's a solution. Another thing you could do is exercise. I remember even during tournament, like, you know, right before your match, you know, I seen Mena do some shadow boxing before he went Evo. That was like a pretty interesting thing that he did. So maybe you could, like, you know, you could do like a little pre workout, like there's something that's not too sweaty that won't make your hands tremble, but like, you know, just like hit like 10 push-ups before your set, you know, something like that. I'm not telling anybody to smoke and or eat edibles, but if that is the conclusion that you've come to that makes you play better in tournament, who am I to stop you? Who am I to stop you? There's a certain Potemkin player out there that really probably just chews like 18 brownies per set. Probably out there somewhere. That shit wasn't even in the airport. That shit was like in the. I think that was the lobby. Yeah, I noticed lobby. I think he's upstairs. But essentially, though, before we get too like into this, you can do a lot of things. There's certain things for certain people, but you can do a lot of things to just ease your nerves, even a little bit, even if it's just a little bit. You know, like you stop your hands from shaking, or you know, you just want to do something to like get rid of a lot of excess energy. You know, like you're playing a set in between games, like, you know, take a sip of water, you know, calm your nerves, go back to character select, calm your nerves, maybe even freaky like change the song, change the stage, do a button check again, you know, something that'll really just make your nerves like relax, make you feel like you're back in a place you need to be. Do you do relaxation techniques like deep breaths, etc., or does that take you out of the competitive vibe? I do some deep breaths. I like I like move my hands a little bit, take deep breaths, you know, just like blow into the air like above me, you know, do something like that. Like it's just little things. Certain people have nerves differently, right? We were talking about it a little earlier. Is there a certain difference between panic nerves and nerves where you feel calm but you make worse decisions? Is there a way to reset midway to a match if you notice this? You have to be very cognizant of it. So you have to know that it's happening, like already. Like you have to be like, I'm too calm right now. I need to like be on high alert because this is too close. Like I'm too calm. I'm getting clear. Like subconsciously, I'm getting overconfident, and I need to change that. That's like the things you have to notice. Do you ever slow down between games on ice? On ice out and oh wait, do you ever slow down between games to ice out an opponent who's got too much momentum and reset yourself? Um, if I feel like the person has too much momentum, I'll probably like float around character select real quick. Like really just click around the 3-4 characters I play and just be like, what if I play Jacko right now? That'd be pretty funny, right? Or what if I play Geo? Like, and then I'll eventually go back to Leo because I'm only gonna play Leo. But you know, it's just a thing where it's just like, you know, gets the blood flowing, gets my mind racing, and this guy's probably thinking about like, what am I gonna eat tomorrow because he's up 2-0, or maybe even just change my color. I highly recommend some kind of deep breathing, but it did take a bit to figure out how to do it properly. How to properly do it. Yeah. The only deep breathing techniques I know is from track and field and a little bit of martial arts. But other than that, I don't. I'm not super duper deep on that one. But next question. One thing I personally really feed off of is the energy of other people. So I really struggle when people are kind of stony and there isn't any energy in the room. I'm not asking to find the answer to my specific situation. I'm just wondering how you deal with people who play to your nerves. If they're playing to your nerves, that means that you need a poker face. Uh, I if you watch me play, 90% of the time I will not have an expression on my face unless something stupid happens, and then I'll be like, "Wow," and I'll like raise an eyebrow, like something like that, right? But typically, like I try to have a poker face. I always tell people to have a poker face. So what do you do if you're cognizant of it? Like, oh, snap nerves are hitting. I'm panicking in the middle of round set game. Do you just play safe, or is that something that you need to deal with between games? Uh, if I notice, right, if I'm cognizant of it, I will just be like, okay, I'm clearly really nervous right now. I have to do things of that I know that I would do when I'm nervous, right? So like I'm gonna do something like incredibly hard to beat and incredibly autopilot. And for me, that would be like, damn, I'm having a damn, I can't like whip punish this thing. And it's really causing me to lose. So instead of whip punishing it, I'm going to slam dash jab 8 times and go Lewis in the face and be like, are you really gonna try to stop me? And that's the kind of thing that I would do. Not everybody can do that, right? But that would be the thing that I would do. If I was Eno, I would be like, I'm going to hit 2K2D as fast as humanly possible and make sure I'm right every time. But right, that being said, uh, basically this topic is basically done. I kind of got into everything, and because of your questions, we got through basically everything. So let us go to the general Q&A. I think, what do you think the time limit should be, Tico? This is technically your show, so what do you believe the time limit should be? 10 to 15? Sounds good. All right. Start. Whoever wants to start it off, if you can start it off. I get to you. I get to everyone one at a time. One at a time. Thoughts on Alpha and Unica? Alpha is decent. Unica is really good. How many hours a day do you spend? Do you recommend spending on Guilty Gear? It depends on how efficiently you use your practice and how much time you have in general, to be real. Like, I have a lot of time because this is kind of my job. So I spend at least, like, I say 5 to 6 hours a day. Probably more. I don't really keep count that much, but I try to get at least 50 games in. So that's about, like, maybe six sets in. Maybe a little bit more. So it just depends. I know a bunch of people that lack confidence and downplay their skill a lot, and when I fight them, they're very capable. I know they can win if they just fix their attitude. Have you ever coached anyone out of a bad attitude, or is it more of their own personal problem? I've never coached anyone out of bad attitude, but I do think that is something they have to deal with because it is something that is inside, whether it's just something really, really bothering them that makes them feel really bad about their play or like the people they're around. They have to find out what that is so then they can like move away from it. I also had the issue where I thought I was really bad and I had a bunch of people telling me that I was really good and I never made a top 8. So I was like, I can't believe you. Do you lab or play matches more? What balance would you recommend? I play matches to lab. That is the kind of balance I recommend. I play matches, and then once I play those matches, I feel like there's something that I need to lab. I lab that. Do you think playing ranked/short sets is good for improving and practicing to a tournament where sets will be short or are long sets the way? I personally like long sets, but I do know a lot of people grind ranked, and those people that grind ranked are pretty good, especially like the higher ranked players. You'll notice that they still make it pretty far in tournament. Like they'll make it top 16, maybe even top 8. So it just depends on the person. I don't play ranked. I play long sets, but to the people that do, it's okay. Since we have students here, how do you ask good questions after a set? What are the qualities of a good question and a bad question? I don't, my teacher always said this. I'm pretty sure it was a lie, but they always said it. They're like, there are no bad questions, right? But to ask a really good question means that you actively looked for an answer yourself and you understand the situation that you're in. So you ask the question and this is actually really hard to say, but basically you look for your own answer and then you couldn't find it and then you ask the question. So you don't feel stupid asking the question. I think that's the best way. I often find myself annoyed and not wanting to play the game or lab after playing ranked, but I recognize that I need to work on fast adaptation skills. I understand that. Ranked is annoying, so I don't play ranked. I get really frustrated playing ranked because I play first to 2 and people do a lot of crazy things on first to 2, and I do not like that. I do not like that at all because they don't do a tournament personally, I think. So, yeah. Do you think ranked is important for practice for a tournament? I think it depends on the person. When I do play ranked, I kind of am autopiloting, but it does help your autopilot. Are you thinking about how certain players might research your play before a set to try to prep? Do you try and switch it up if you know someone has prepped for you? I want them to prove that they prepped for me. I want them to prove how good that prep was before I even think about switching anything up. But I do have multiple game plans for multiple people. How do I play this game while being employed? I work like 4 days a week with like 4 to 5 hour shifts, so finding the time to play and lab is hard. At the end of the day, I understand that it's very difficult. It is about using your time wisely. So if I'm in your situation, I would not get on and just be like, I'm gonna boot up ranked. I would be like, okay, I just got out of work. I'm going to remember what happened yesterday, use that information yesterday, lab it for like maybe an hour or 2, but depending on how much time you have. And then for like the last hour of the day that I have, then I'll play like a set or ranked. But I would think it would be more important for you to do like a long set lab, do things one at a time instead of trying to like cram everything. For example, I think it was a Street Fighter player that had no time. Literally, you had 1 to 2 hours of play per day before he had to just crash in his bed because he had work tomorrow. And he was also an Evo champion. I forgot who. I think it might have been Mena, but I forget. Universal ways to beat reactive players when your character doesn't have accessible proactive options. I play Bedman, but I don't feel like I have the tools for force offense against people who dash block against me. Do you hard call them out, or do you hard call them? Do you think? If I was playing Bedman, I would just do things that would fuck with their mental. So like my thing would probably be like I know you're gonna dash block at me, so I'm gonna do like jump very low to the ground, air dash, JSJD or like JKJD, something like that, right? Because I know you're gonna run into this anyways, so I can just start doing things early. I have to go eat something. I just noticed I haven't had food this morning. All right. Thank you for stopping by. How do you put yourself in the mood to compete if you're not feeling the competitive fire within yourself? If you're not feeling it, do you still enter brackets or do you take AB to either find it or take a small break from the game entirely? If I feel like I'm not in the right place to like get better or just mentally compete, I'll just like I'll literally get on a different game. Like I'll get on Apex, play with my friends. I'll play something with my friends, or I just like sleep. Sometimes I just like to sleep, or I just work out. Like something that is productive, something that's gonna take my mind off of the thing, so I can like refresh myself in like 3, maybe 4 days, and just see if I get that fire back. Do you typically prioritize studying the player or character when prepping for a tournament? I'm very big on studying characters. I'm way less on studying players. If I study a player, it'll probably be an invitational. Like that is typically the way I study a player. Or I'm like in top 16 of a bracket and there's a character I'm worried about that I'm not good against. And I'm like, I need to study this player. Like Paluna is somebody I studied. I studied them watching Classified play against them. And that's how I kind of knew that I needed to play Geo. Other players that I would study is like somebody that's just like who's a good one? Oh, Daru. I would study Daru like if I was an invitational, like somebody like him. Additional, how much do you juggle playing that character versus watching your VODs? Does it depend on the character? For Paluna, did you fight other Digis? I did fight other Digis for Paluna. I basically just prep character and then I'll watch VODs if I'm like not sure. If I'm not sure, I will watch VODs. Specifically that Paluna said, what went into deciding to pick Geo there instead of Leo? And then was it a mental thing or a character or a player matchup thing? It was more of a player matchup thing. I played them with Geo like prior to Combo and I had beaten their Dizzy 3-0 with Geo. And I kind of understood that my Leo wasn't ready for that matchup because the matchup's hard for Leo and I needed a better understanding of it. So I was like, I need to go Geo here unless I really want to just, put all my eggs in one basket and really just try this thing that I know I'm not sure of. What do you think the line on the tier list is for the threshold where you need a secondary to succeed? Is there a line? I think like any character around Giovanna's strength If you're around there, I think you need a secondary character. Typically, high tiers won't need a secondary characters. Like the upper echelon of high tiers will not need a secondary. But if it I can actually, I know the person is this Smug? Am I bugging? Is this Smug that said that? Sanford, thank you. Thank you. I was like, I know one of them. But yes, do pick a top tier, as my opinion. But you don't have to pick a top tier because picking a top tier is not always the answer. I did not win Evo on top tier. I won Evo on a high tier and a mid tier. And it's because I had two characters that covered each other's bases. So if you don't want to pick a top tier, that is perfectly fine. But you maybe need to invest in a secondary character. Typically, the times where you need to invest in a secondary character will be when the character is unwinnable matchups. If you have one unwinnable matchups, that's the way you want to get a secondary. And I'm not talking about 6-4s or like my character gets pot busted on offense because I do too. I'm talking about like Geo versus Pot last patch, like that kind of unwinnable. Or Biken versus Asuka, like you need, or Biken versus Chaos, like those kind of matchups. But yeah, any final questions? Do you ever pick up pocket characters to learn character matchups? Not on purpose, but I did learn Chip through I did learn the Chip matchup because I did learn Chip because I was gonna play Chip and then I didn't. How do you, as a player, mental stack your opponent? I have my own. I play Anji, but other than the 50-50s, there's a couple ways. But I kind of also have 50-50s. But a big way is to just throw them a lot, or not throw them at all. I think that really like messes with their mental. Also DPing them a lot, like reversals. If you like DP them a lot or don't DP them at all, it really makes them afraid. Cats or dogs? Cats. I'm a big cats person. Do I ever use in-game replay to stalk people? No, I don't. I can't do S. If it makes you feel any better, I can't do 236S or Turbulence against that character anymore. But yeah, I think this is a good place to end. This is a good place to end.